Okay, so this is the second learning objective. Okay, so as define what is fraud and describe the different types of fraud. So they have two types of fraud, and then what are those auditors' responsibility to detect fraud. Okay, so first of all, fraud. Okay, so fraud, okay, is any and all means a person uses to gain an unfair advantage over another person. So that's by definition, that's a fraud. Okay, so in other terms, okay, they also use white collar crime that refer to this fraud. Okay, for legally, okay, legally for an act to be considered fraudulent, there must be met these 5 conditions. The first one, okay, a false statement, a false representation or disclosure. That's the first condition. The second condition that need to be met, okay, so that will be considered as fraud, is material fact, okay, that include person, okay, to act. And then the third is intent to deceive, okay, must exist or knowledge statement is false, okay. Then number 4, justifiable reliance, so the people may take action based on that misrepresentation. And the last one, injury or loss, okay, so that is the person relies we suffered by the victim. Okay, so those are the 5 conditions, okay, if that may considered as the fraudulent, legally as the fraud lah. Alright, okay. And then so they have 2 types of fraud. Okay, 2 types of fraud. So actually most fraud perpetrators, okay, they are knowledgeable. Okay, so some of the perpetrators actually is come from the insiders of the company that have information and also understand on the company system. So they knows where's the flaws of the system, the loophole of the system, the weaknesses of the system. So that's why some of the cases, the perpetrators come from the insiders of the company. Orang dalam sini lah yang buat kerja ni. Sebab dia tahu di mana kelemahan sistem, di mana loophole yang boleh dia boleh breach, so that dia boleh masuk lah, ataupun dia boleh go into the system. Okay, and then also they can they able to conceal also the fraud. Okay, so the control used to protect the corporate asset make it more difficult for the outsiders actually. So when they have internal control, so the outsiders of the company are more difficult to steal the asset from the company. So that's why insider ni lagi mudah untuk they steal asset from the company. Okay, so this is also referred as the white collar crimes that I mentioned earlier tadi. Okay, so they have 2 types of fraud here that we're going to discuss that important to the business. So the first one is misappropriation of asset that we refer as the employee fraud. So this involves theft of company asset by the employees. Okay, so you can refer to page 254. You can see the examples given. Okay, how the employees steal asset from the companies. Okay, for example, I take the third example there. The manager at the Florida newspaper went to work for the competitor after he was fired. Okay, and then they soon realized the reporters were being scooped. And then when the investigation revealed, the manager still had an active account and password. Okay, and they regularly browse the computer file for the information on exclusive stories. So dia masih ada punya password company lama dia, and then dia curi data lah daripada sistem. Okay, and then the most significant contributing factors to this misappropriation is the absence of the internal controls. Okay, and also because of the failure to enforce the existing internal controls. So that's why mudahlah untuk employees to do the fraud. Okay, so if you refer page 254, you can see the characteristic of these perpetrators from this type of fraud. For example, they gain trust and confidence, okay, from the entity that they being defrauded. Okay, and then they use the trickery, cunning, false, misleading information so that they can commit fraud lah. Okay, and then they can conceal the fraud, okay, by falsifying the records, and then see how easy to get money, and then they commit to this fraud. Okay, and then you can ada berapa tu, 2, 4, 6, 7, okay, 7 karakteristik. You can go through those karakteristik. Alright, so macam mana kita boleh kenal lah macam mana these perpetrators yang biasanya commit to this misappropriation of asset. But normally this misappropriation of asset is more beneficial to the individual employees. Okay, so sebab dia panggil employee fraud. So dia sendiri yang akan dapat benefit untuk diri dia sendiri lah. Dia curi duit, okay, dia curi aset, then they do billing scheme ke, check tampering, skimming, theft of inventory. So those are the example of misappropriation of asset. And then the second type of fraud that important also to the business is fraudulent financial reporting. So this one definition given by the Tradeway, they mention here the fraudulent financial reporting is as intentional or reckless conduct, whether by act or omission, that results in materially misleading the financial statements. Okay, so for example, they mislead the financial statement to deceive the investors and creditors, cause the company's stock price to rise, to meet the cash flow needs, and also they want to hide the company losses and problems. So for this type of fraud, this is more beneficial to the company as a whole compared to the first one tadi, yang employee fraud tu employees ni yang akan dapat benefit of dia curi data tu. But for the fraudulent financial reporting ni, dia nak mencerminkan dia buat fraud tu untuk benefit kepada company as a whole. For example, dia nak naikkan stock price, okay, and then they want to meet the cash flow needs of the company dan sebagainya. Alright, so this type of fraud, okay, in the misrepresented financial statement, they can lead to the huge financial losses to the company and a number of bankruptcy of the company. Okay, for example, they use the books ni, macam dia gunakan creative accounting, okay, and then they involve in the fictitious inflating revenue, overstating the inventories of fixed asset, concealing losses and liabilities. Those are the example, okay, that related to the misrepresented of the financial statement. Okay, so under Tradeway Commission, they recommended 4 actions to reduce the possibility of fraudulent financial reporting. Okay, the first one, they need to establish an organizational environment that contributes to the integrity of the financial reporting process. So this one, they want so that the environment as a whole of the company to show the integrity, okay, of the financial reporting process. So dia akan give the better framework of the whole company lah, contribute to the integrity as a whole. And then the second one, identify and understand the factors that lead to this fraudulent financial reporting. So dia kena faham kenapa ada berlakunya fraudulent financial reporting, factors that lead to this fraud. Okay, and then the third one, they need to assess. Okay, so they already identify the factors and then assess the risk of that fraudulent financial reporting. Okay, apa risiko. Okay, then the fourth one, design and implement internal control. Okay, internal control to provide reasonable assurance that fraudulent financial reporting is prevented. So itu yang kita akan discuss in detail nanti, apa those internal control that can be implemented, designed, so that they can provide reasonable assurance that fraudulent financial reporting is prevented. Okay, and then from the SCFE, they found out that the asset misappropriation is 17 times more likely than fraudulent financial reporting. Okay, so compared to the employee fraud just now that we discussed on the first type, employee fraud, okay, are more likely to occur. Okay, they mentioned here is 17 times more likely, okay, compared to this fraudulent financial reporting. But the amount involved in the fraudulent financial reporting are much bigger compared to the employee fraud. So walaupun employee fraud tu banyak kali boleh berlaku, banyak kali lah berlaku, okay, tapi the contribution amount of losses, okay, are much smaller compared to the fraudulent financial reporting. Biasanya financial reporting ni sebab dia involve to the company as a whole kan, dia tunjukkan loss, dia tunjukkan gain, padahal loss dan sebagainya, yang tu lagi bagi impact kepada dalam apa ni, amount, okay, that involved, okay, much bigger. So as a result, the auditors and management are more concerned with this type of the fraudulent financial reporting, sebab dia lagi bagi impact on the financial impact to the negative financial impact lah kepada company. So the auditors, they are more concerned on this type of the fraudulent financial reporting. So under statement on auditing standards, SAS number 99, okay, this SAS 99, they list down the responsibility, okay, that need to be followed by the auditors. Okay, so the first one, okay, the auditors need to understand the fraud, itu yang pertama. Okay, so meaning here they need to understand the fraud, how and why, okay, it is committed. And then the second one, the auditors need to discuss the risk of the material fraudulent misstatements, to the risk, okay, how and where the company's financial statements are susceptible to fraud. Okay, and then the third one, they need to obtain the information, gather all the evidence, okay, that may be apa ni yang dia boleh carilah semua information evidence related to the this fraudulent financial misstatement ni. Okay, and then identify, assess and respond to the risk. Okay, so the evidence will be used, okay, so that they can identify, they assess and also respond to those risks. Okay, then evaluate the result of their audit test. Okay, so they need to evaluate whether identified misstatements indicate the presence of fraud, okay, and determine the impact on the financial statement and also the audit. Okay, they can evaluate. And then second last, they need to document it and communication findings, okay, the findings to the management and also to the audit committee. Alright, then the last one, incorporate the technology. So they also can use the technology to design the fraud auditing procedure, okay, by using this technology. So they can use these opportunities. Alright, okay, so that's from the SAS number 99. So actually this one also maybe you already gone through kalau you ambil paper audit, okay, maybe you come across of this SAS number 99 that related to the auditor's responsibility to the detect fraud, okay, responsibility to detect fraud. Alright, so this ending of the learning objective number 2. So we will continue on the next video on the learning objective number 3.